Hello, Kimberly Stratman here, To The Point Coach. I'm a retirement life coach and also a certified life coach. And I want us to look at, are we, meaning you, well enough to retire? Well enough. We can also look at that as wellness. Are you well enough to retire? And if we were to reword that, we might say, hey, are you in shape to retire? Or how do you feel about retirement? And most people, would answer that with a, yeah, I've been saving my money. I've got some investments, stocks are looking good, or my pension. So they would answer when it comes to money or investments or something in the financial world. But we all know, we can all list examples of people who are doing very well financially, but they're not ready to retire, or they are retired and they're not thriving. They're miserable. So what I would like you to start considering is the other dimensions of wellness. And there's 8 total, one of those being financial, but I'm gonna list the other ones. Now, this is not something that I made up. What I'm looking at right here for you is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and they use a program that was developed by Dr. Margaret Starbrick. It's what they use, and if you research it, you'll find it listed in many other ways, many other ways to describe it. When I coach my retirement clients, this is what I'm looking at also. I am just using the terms right now that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services uses. So the first one we're going to look at is emotional. Now, I'm talking to first responders here, mostly cops, and you're like, I'm a mess. I'm going to be a mess. I've always been a mess. Ever since I've had this job, I'm a mess. I became a mess 15 years ago. I became a mess 20 years ago. You can't do this job and not be a mess. I hear that a whole bunch. So let me ask you something. If you are a mess and if you leave your job, what are you after you leave your job? You're a mess leaving your job is what you are. So you are a mess that's leaving your schedule, leaving everything that you know, and you're a mess. I understand that. I'm not making light of that. I'm not making fun of it. I absolutely understand that. But what I would like to ask you to do is don't just accept that you're a mess. Don't accept that you're a mess. If therapy is what you need, if counseling is what you need, do that. But my goodness, there is so much out there that you can do for yourself. So much out there that you can do for yourself. Bring some joy into your life. Bring some calm into your life. Learn how to breathe better. Learn how to sleep better. Learn how to relax a little bit. And a couple of years ago, well, I would say, 5-10 years ago, if somebody told me that, I would have rolled my eyes and said, you don't understand. You haven't seen what I've seen. You haven't had to do what I've had to do. I'm an emotional wreck, but I've earned this. And, you wear it. We wear it like it's a badge. We wear it like it's part of our identity. And when we retire, we're going to have 10, 20, 30, 40 years of potential misery because we're willing to keep that emotional mess that we're bringing with us. So I ask you, are you well enough emotionally to have a good retirement? Please don't settle. Please do not settle. The next thing we're going to talk about is spiritual. I'm going to let you define for yourself what that is. That can be organized religion. It can be your faith. It can believe that you believe in the universe. It doesn't matter. But do you have some beliefs that comfort you? Do you have some beliefs that help you behave in a way that you believe the world benefits? Do you believe that you have some responsibility based on your belief, based on your spirituality? That's something that's up to you. That's very fluid. There's a lot of people that were raised a certain way, but they live a certain way now. It's totally up to you. I ask that you respect it, you explore it, you stay open-minded on it, and find something that gives value to you and that you feel that you bring value to it. So are you spiritually well enough to retire right now? Let's look at intellectual. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing because studies all around the world come in and say that if we can challenge our mind, if we can challenge our thought process, that we can keep our brain health. Lots of people are afraid to retire because we're afraid that we're just going to, intellectually, mentally, we're just going to go into a slump because we're not going to be active mentally. Well, guess what, cowboy? It's up to you. And puzzles are great. I mean, I just started doing some puzzles on my phone, some little computer puzzles on my phone. But that isn't all you have to do. There's reading, there's conversation, anything that engages your mind, anything that makes you think, anything that gets you to have a little bit of excitement, a little bit of wonder. There's the phrase, stay curious. Staying curious can do a whole lot for your intellectual wellness. Writing too, and yes, we talk about journaling for meditation and health and spirituality, but writing is also really good for our brain and for our mental health. Physical, okay, this is kind of, sometimes it comes through what I think about being physically active. To me, it's like a no-brainer. I don't care if you're watching TV and reading, get up and move your feet, lift your legs, flap your arms like a bird, do something to move. Do something to move. It's been proven over and over and over and over again that if you can remain physically active, you can be healthy. So I'm not necessarily talking about, running a marathon or, swimming the Atlantic or anything like that. There's so many things that you can do in your day-to-day life. Your gardening, walking the dog, getting up and moving around, just something that you can do. Walking farther through the parking lot, things like that. Just start moving. Now, if I had my way, we would all move more than that. We would also be lifting weights and we'd be getting our heart rate up. We would be doing all of the rest of that stuff. There's so much stuff that we can do. One of the number one things that kills people when they get older is they break a hip. They're like, oh, those frail bones. Oh, she just didn't eat enough meat, didn't drink enough dairy, yada, yada, yada. A lot of times it's because we haven't kept our muscle intact to protect our joints. So we have a fall that's survivable, but we end up breaking a hip or a shoulder because we don't have the muscle to protect it, or we didn't have the flexibility from lack of movement. I know I'm on a soapbox, but hey, y'all, physical wellness is so easy to address. And hey, don't say, well, you don't understand, I'm hurt, I'm sick, whatever. You want to carry that label on you? That's going to affect your physical wellness. So I know our backs hurt. I know our hips hurt. I know we've got bad knees. I know all of that from wearing the equipment for so long and the jobs that we've done. But please, please, please do everything you can to reclaim some of that physical wellness. Ask yourself, am I physically well enough to live the life I want to live in retirement? Now, some of y'all might have some debilitating injuries. It doesn't matter what you do or how much you want, you're not going to get back to where you were. But I ask you to please make whatever improvements that you can. There is no judgment coming from this. Yes, I'm on a soapbox about physical wellness, but only because it's a gift that you can give yourself. That's it. That's it. Environmental. Where are you going to live? It's kind of funny. People don't have that conversation with their spouse or their significant other. They just assume that everybody's on the same page, and so it's time to retire. And you ask one person what they want to do, and well, they're going to the beach. Well, their spouse is going to the mountains. Another big thing that comes up in where they're going to live is one person wants to downsize, the other person wants a big enough house for the grandkids, or they want to live near the grandkids, or they don't want to live near the grandkids. But where do you want to live when you retire? What matters to you when you retire? Do you want to live someplace that you can walk everywhere? Maybe you want to live someplace that, the restaurants and your doctor's office are all close by. You can ride a bike or you can walk or drive very quickly. Other people, they want to get the hell out. They want to go out to the country. They don't want to even see a person. Nobody around them, just fences and animals. That's all they want. So environmental, where do you want to actually be living? And not just full-time, but where do you want to live part-time? It's a question that comes up a lot for retirees. It's very, very important. Do you plan on spending time down at the beach? Do you plan on spending time, the summer, taking the kids and the grandkids and traveling? Questions you need to ask yourself. Environmental. Occupational. So yes, we're talking retirement, but it's a funny thing. Retirement doesn't mean that you have to quit working. A lot of people, they want to quit what they're doing. They want to stop going to that job. Or some people don't want to stop going to the job, but they age out or other reasons they have to leave their job. But what do you want to do? Do you want to do some sort of work? Do you want to do something that makes money? Do you want it to be volunteer? Do you want it to be something that you have a passion for? I got a little part-time job at a plant shop because I wanted to be around plants. I did it for 2 years, earned very little money doing that, but I got to do something I really, really, really wanted to do. It's fabulous. I loved it. I did it. I realized I didn't want to do it anymore. So just think about that. Some people, when they leave their first responder job or they leave their career, they are going to have a job to make money. Sometimes they jump right into the same job, the same career, different uniform, maybe a different county. Maybe they go from, agency to agency. Really think about that. You don't have to limit yourself to just what your career was. Really think about what you want to do. Really think about how you want to spend your time. Maybe you don't want to drive. That was very important to me. I was not willing to drive longer than like 5 minutes to get any place to work right after I retired from my cop job. Now my coaching job, I do that over the phone or over the computer. Every now and then I drive to meet a client, or if I'm doing some public speaking, I'll drive to do that. But that's pretty much it, because I know that when I think about occupational wellness, I don't want to drive someplace for a job. So please think about that. And the last thing we're going to mention is social. Your social wellness. A couple questions. Where is all your social contact occurring? Who do you talk to throughout the day? If you were to retire tomorrow, who would you talk to next week? Who's in your life? What friends do you have? What schedule do your friends have? So like, again, if you've retired and you're now available during the day, but your friends are all still working, your friends are on shift work and they are now sleeping when you're awake, really think about that. Some of those friendships will continue on, but it's also a great time to make more friendships. Also, when it comes to the social, I'm going to include family in that. If you have not had time to really work on your marriage, breakfast might not be a lot of fun when you're both at the house. If you haven't been giving your children or grandchildren a lot of time, they might have built a really good life that you're not a part of, and you're going to have to work to get in that. So some questions for you to ask yourself on your wellness. Am I well enough to retire? Outside of the financial question is emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically, environmentally, occupational, and social. Am I well enough? Let me point something out. If you were talking or you were thinking, if you don't have an expert helping you, but if you were looking at your financial wellness and you realized that you were not well enough to retire right now, what would you do? You'd go back to work and you keep doing it, right? You wouldn't quit, you wouldn't retire, you wouldn't reduce your hours. Maybe you'd pick up your hours, or you'd get a budget, or you'd start spending less. You'd start making some decisions and taking some actions to improve your financial wellness. Do the same in the other dimensions. Do the same in those other dimensions. If you aren't doing well emotionally, change it. If you're not doing well socially, change it. Don't just accept it. Don't label yourself. When I ask you to look at it and identify it, I'm not saying, get a magic marker and write it on your forehead. I'm saying identify it, use that as a tool, and move on. Move on. Because we all want a retirement that we don't regret. We have 10, 20, 30, 40 years of life after we leave our job. And we need to thrive during that time. All that stuff that you've been getting ready for, now you can do it if you take care of yourself and get yourself well enough to retire. Again, Kimberly Stratman, To The Point Coach. I have a website. It's a Facebook group called Let's Retire. It's public. And I have a website that's tothepointcoach.org and a YouTube channel that's To The Point Coach. Get a hold of me anyway. I would love to hear what you have to say. Please subscribe to this video. Once we have initial contact, we can find a way that we can talk easier, message back and forth, text, email, even some phone calls. I absolutely want you to thrive in retirement. There's no reason not to. You have spent your whole career serving others, and now it's time for you to take care of yourself. You can do it. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.